Kimberly Crail is a wise woman, herbalist, and educator who came from Wall Street to the weeds. Casey's mission is to teach folks how to heal themselves using whole plants and foods as medicine. You can heal yourself with simple and inexpensive methods, foods, and herbs. And now, here's the host of Weeds of Wisdom, Kimberly Crail.
Hi, welcome. It's Tuesday, November 4th, and there are a lot of elections happening in the United States today. So I think the polls are getting ready to close. So if you haven't already voted, please get out there and do so. Vote for the candidates of your choice. So tonight we have a recorded interview with Dr. Ben Goins, who is a biochemist, really fascinating individual that I had the opportunity to meet recently at the Super Soldier Activation Conference in Orlando. Really fascinating individual. And so we had to record it because he lives in the mountains and would not have access to a signal at this particular time of day. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this interview. It's Dr. Ben Goins, and his website is iMedDo.Club. So enjoy this interview. Thanks. Hi, welcome to Weeds of Wisdom. Today's Tuesday, November 4th, and I'm Kimberly Crail, also known as Casey, the Wise Woman. I'm an herbalist, I'm an educator, and I don't sell any products, so I can be more objective in terms of my consultations with my clients. So my guest today, I'm very excited. I'm going to have a scientist type, actually chemist, and I believe, as his background, Dr. Ben Goins, or DrBenGo, also known as the Thyroid Whisperer. And I'm very excited to speak with him because we're going to talk about the thyroid, and then Dr. BenGo has some really interesting formulations of silver and gold and iodine that can be really, really good for the health. So as I normally do, hang on a second. I'm having a hard time with this production part, but hopefully you're seeing this. So just as a reminder, there are incentives in the medical business model that have nothing to do with keeping you healthy. They have a lot more to do with making the money for the providers. So I'm not sure if you can see this okay, but hopefully you can. And also, you know, my work is really not to give you one fix. I'm really looking to help you fix yourself, how to learn how to fish and how to really nourish yourself, because at the end of the day, people are so much more powerful than we've ever been allowed to believe. So let's see here. Where is Ben's bio? Where is he? Oh my gosh. I've lost Ben's bio. I'm not sure why. Hang on a second. You know what? I'm going to stop, Ben.
We don't really need it. It doesn't matter. I can explain how my life experience worked into what we're talking about as we talk about it. It's been a very interesting journey.
All right, perfect. All right, so welcome, Ben. So you're Dr. BenGo. I met you at the Super Soldier Activation Conference in Orlando that we had last month, and it was a real pleasure. In fact, I was sitting right next to you. So I was fascinated to hear about your work. And as someone who was convinced for many years that I had a thyroid issue, and probably do, I'm excited to hear more about the thyroid aspects of your practice. So welcome, Ben. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I want to talk about the thyroid. And so as we talk about the thyroid, I can work in my background as to how I basically I'm basically the world thyroid expert, in my opinion. And I think people might agree after they read my last article, but I really believe that I have a better understanding of thyroid physiology than anyone else. And a lot of that, I got to start with the neuroscience. And a lot of people, when they're testing their thyroid hormone, are really testing TSH, which is a brain hormone. So really is a neuroscience thing. I came at that, but then I became an iodine expert. And then I wasn't trying to become a thyroid expert, but because I became an iodine nutrient expert, I ended up becoming a thyroid expert, because that ends up being the main way that the thyroid works is with iodine. And also I'm a chemist. And then the other side of how the thyroid works is with calcium. And so it was my biochemistry education, looking at trying to figure out what the heck calcium is doing in the body. And then later on, I had to teach myself nutrition, but as a biochemist, and not just a biochemist, I'm a biophysicist and a neuroscientist. I'm trained in advanced biochemistry. And so I was just able to, just through an act of God or religion or 20 years of training, I just woke up really about when you met me, and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm actually the world thyroid expert. And so I want to get out there and explain to people how their thyroid works, how they can fix their thyroid. And in my latest newsletter, Thyroid Whisper, I'm actually a church now, so I release it as a like a sermon almost. But I looked at what I know about the thyroid, what mainstream medicine is teaching about the thyroid, mesh it together so I can really communicate people on a level they can understand based on what they think they know about the thyroid, and I can meet you at wherever you're at on your thyroid understanding. Right. So we can go however you want to go with that, but I'm here today to help people with their thyroid. So any kind of thyroid question.
So you have a scientific background, like biochemistry.
I have a very, very advanced scientific. Yes, I have basically about the formal didactic training of about almost an MD PhD, but or almost like a double PhD. I have like advanced neuroscience, advanced biochemistry. Most of that work was from my graduate school is from Texas, the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, which is the joint graduate school for University of Texas Health Science Center and UT MD Anderson Cancer Center. But anyway, long story short, I was a biochemist. I started out neuroscientist, and I got into iodine because I was interested in helping people with breast cancer. So I have 2 degrees from MD Anderson Cancer Center as well. So I was always thinking about things from the cancer side. But I got out of mainstream medicine. I did medical dosimetry, where I learned all about how to, all the frying cancer with radiation. But I got out of that into more nutrition and how to take care of cancer with nutrition. So I have just a very, very, very different understanding of a lot of just basic things that people, I don't know where you want to start with that.
No, that's really fascinating. You've actually been on the same track for a long time in terms of science. I actually started out, I thought I was going to be a doctor, and I was engineering pre-med at Purdue. And because when I was a kid, they were looking to get more women into engineering. And so I was really good at math and science. And they're like, oh, you're a girl. Why don't you come to Purdue? I was like, oh, okay, well, this is ugly. And, I did really well with the grades. But, for me, the thought of doing that sort of work for the rest of my life, I was like, yeah, this is really not it for me. But
I actually started in engineering too. You might not believe this, but my granddad was a famous engineer. He was in the National Academy of Engineers. Wow. So I always thought I was going to be an engineer, but my granddad always wished he was a doctor. So I thought I was going to be a doctor as well. I am, but I'm an alternative health medicine doctor. But I got into, I thought I was going to be a nuclear engineer at first. And then I got into radiological health engineering, which is a type of health science where I was looking at, and then I got into a subfield of that, which is sort of like, okay, well, I'm going to fry cancer with radiation. And then I'm like, well, I don't really understand how the body works. I need to get into biochemistry. And then I got into chemistry. So I sort of started in engineering and I ended up in chemistry and biochemistry. But I've been accused by the other scientists of thinking like an engineer, which they meant as an insult, but I took it as a compliment. Like, yes, I do think like an engineer, and I'm proud of that.
Right. Wow, that's so interesting. So, okay, I found the slide, by the way, and I just want to show it for a sec because it does have the background of your business. And so, there we go. Okay.
And the difference, by the way, between how an engineer and a scientist thinks is really interesting, because the scientists are like, I'll do anything if you give me $1 million, infinite money, what can I do? Whereas the engineer is more like, I'm trying to do something useful, something practical, something on a budget that will actually help people.
That's so interesting.
And because of that, that engineering mentality is actually what has steered me to, I'm always looking to maximize helping other people. Like, what can I do to communicate this to other people?
Right, and in the critical path, the simplest form, Occam's razor. I mean, the engineering. One of the things that I think we tend to do is overcomplicate things, because when we overcomplicate things, then you need somebody to help you, fix you, translate. We've done that with all of the big professions. I mean, look at lawyers. They have their own paper and their own language. I mean, come on. I mean, and they do the same thing in medical school and so on. But
The lawyers speak a magical language, but I speak it at a higher level. So the lawyers don't want to mess with me. Yeah,
well, I spent a lot of years doing litigation with attorneys, so I actually speak lawyer now. So I can still
well, it's actually really important to what we're talking about today, because this magazine I was reviewing, Understand Your Thyroid.
Yeah.
Understand is a lawyer word. Understand, it is in legalese it means agreement.
Right.
So they're trying to get you to understand something. They're trying to get you to agree to something, and it's actually a contract. They're trying to get you to agree to a contract that your thyroid cannot be healed. They're trying to get you to agree to that, whereas you have to not agree to that. To, like, you're thinking about, there is a cure, even if, like, I love the way, I'm totally in alignment with how you do it. If you're looking inside yourself to connect with that mother wisdom to find that cure, it's out there. You have to find it.
Right.
But you don't want to agree that it doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, because the way I come at it, from my tradition, is we're already created perfect and whole and holy, and generally speaking, after 17 years of consulting with people, almost in every case, especially with chronic conditions, I almost always find it's some sort of mineral deficiency. And the funny thing is that herbalists don't talk about minerals, because most of the herbalists aren't even educated in nourishing herbs. So the same issue that you had in terms of, science being very focused on radiation and burning things out, and, it's the same, and not getting any information about basic nutrition. That's the way doctors are trained too.
Well, what I've done, and the reason I really become an expert now, is because, minerals are not easy, because metals, some of them are good for you, some of them are bad for you.
Right.
There's metalloids. So really, I'm approaching it as a chemist, and every single month I've been writing a newsletter for the past many years. And I'm just like looking at, okay, let's look at this element. Let's look at this element. Let's look at this element. And I finally have done that enough to now I have a pretty good understanding as a chemist and biochemist which minerals and nutrients are good for you and bad for you and how to use them. But that was not easy knowledge to come by. It's not really taught anywhere. You have to like almost teach it yourself. But I have been doing that. And the biggest one, the hardest one to understand, and the most critical one that everybody in grad school was trying to figure it out when I was there, was calcium. Because calcium is used everywhere in your body. It's used 16,000 different pathways, and half of the thyroid function is based on calcium. Right. And even though you think calcium might be simple, it is not simple at all. And fixing the thyroid, a lot of people have low calcium. They just take calcium. It doesn't work, because that's not how it works. You take magnesium and vitamin D and other stuff, but it's not obvious unless you've really studied it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I'd be very interested to get to work with you on, because what I actually have been doing for 17 years is teaching people how to get minerals out of the plants, and from the whole plants. So, because you're absolutely right, calcium supplements don't work, and in fact they almost double your heart attack risk. So I think it's 86% is the figure if you take calcium in pill form as some sort of a supplement. And as you also point out, there are lots of different kinds of calcium. So what kind of calcium is it, right? Just like vitamins, they're all different kinds of vitamins, and how do you measure them, and so on and so on. So I think it's super important that people do understand that calcium is half the body's mineral count, as I understand it, and the body does not make it itself. So if you don't get enough calcium, and in fact calcium is so important, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the parathyroid's only job is to regulate calcium levels in the bloodstream, because calcium doesn't just form the structure of your bones and your teeth. It actually makes your heart contract, your muscles contract. It controls your hormone system, your endocrine system. I mean, it's like the if you have an orchestra, right? It's the conductor. Calcium is really kind of the conductor of the whole body's orchestra in some
So that's
form
what's
or fashion.
exciting. To really understand the thyroid, you need to understand it has two main functions. One side uses iodine and one side uses calcium.
Okay.
So the reason I'm a thyroid expert is because I'm like the world iodine expert. And as an advanced biochemistry, I'm also a calcium expert.
Right.
So by understanding those two together, I really understand what the thyroid is doing. And the part that people really didn't understand, like mainstream medicine, if they understand it, they don't talk about it. And I just don't think they understand it at all, honestly, is they don't understand the calcium side,
Right.
which you're talking about, the parathyroid hormone and what that's actually doing. And I'm happy to explain that on the show.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the big breakthrough was figuring out the thyroid is using calcium kind of as a secondary sensor for magnesium.
Mm.
Okay. So the thyroid regulates calcium, but what it's really trying to do is regulate energy. And with the calcium side, what it's really trying to do is trying to get magnesium.
Right. Well, and that
And the reason, but then as a biochemist, I'm like, why the hell is it trying to get magnesium? It's trying to get magnesium for energy stabilization.
Interesting.
So it uses the iodine to make energy, but each molecule of ATP has a triple phosphate on it. It's negatively charged, wraps around a positively charged magnesium to stabilize the energy.
Interesting.
So the thyroid is regulating energy. It's trying to make energy and trying to stabilize energy. And it has these very fancy calcium systems to get magnesium to stabilize energy, is a long story short.
That's really interesting. So that really is the richer explanation of why people say, oh, well, you can't just take calcium. You also have to take magnesium, and you have to get enough vitamin D, and you have to get, because all of these things, you understand how they all fit together in terms of the body's, usage of these things. But
I do now, and people were very confused about it. But basically, if you'll hear me out, I'll try to explain it as simple as you've never heard this before. Like anyone, when you heard me talking in Florida, that's the first time I've told anyone.
Nice.
But I can explain the thyroid very simply if you want to hear it.
Yeah, please do. I'll give you the floor.
First of all, what is the thyroid? Where's the thyroid? It's in your throat area here. Okay. It's what the thyroid does is it regulates all the energy in your body, all metabolism, all the energy in your body. It regulates that, and regulating the energy above your neck to your head, and regulating all the energy below your neck to the rest of your body, heart and everything else. Okay. That's what it's doing. It's regulating energy. Okay. How does it regulate energy? It does it using 4 different hormones. 2 of these hormones use iodine, and 2 of these hormones regulate calcium.
Got it.
Okay. So the thyroid is regulating all the energy. It's doing it with iodine, and it's doing it with calcium. Okay. And the way I look at it is iodine is sort of the main energy system, and calcium is sort of like a backup energy system. Okay. So the way the iodine system works is with these thyroid hormones, T3, T4, and the ratio of T3 to T4. And the missing thing that people don't understand is that iodine itself can be an energy molecule. And the way that I look at thyroid hormones is actually as energy molecules. And the way that I view like T4, thyroxine, is like a high energy storage battery molecule. Like it's got a lot of energy. And then T3 is like the activated thyroid hormone, which the tissues can turn T4 to T3 to activate and amplify tons and tons more energy, because it can ultimately go down and create mitochondrial biogenesis and massively ramp up ATP production.
Right.
So the iodine system sort of stores energy. That the thyroid sends those thyroid hormones out to get energy. It sends them out to the blood to regulate energy with the T3, but also the T4 is just to give energy, make energy available for the body. So that's the iodine side. But the calcium side it uses two other hormones, which you may not have heard of, because usually when people talk about thyroid hormones, they don't even mention these two. So that's why people don't really have any idea how the thyroid works. But it's parathyroid hormone, which you've heard of because you mentioned that earlier. And the other one is called calcitonin. And what they normally teach is parathyroid hormone makes your calcium go up, calcitonin makes the calcium go down. But mainstream medicine completely was missing the point as to what the body is doing with that. And what it's doing, in my opinion, is it's actually using calcium and it monitors the calcium going by it. It's using that as sort of a to keep tabs on the body's energy. Okay, and it sort of interprets high calcium as we've got plenty of energy and low calcium as we're low energy. Okay, but really what it seems to be doing is it's using calcium as sort of a secondary indicator of magnesium. So what it does is when the body wants more energy using that secondary system with calcium, it will elevate parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone then sends a signal to, it'll send the signal to the bones to tell the bones to start dissolving, which elevates calcium and phosphate. But what it really also elevates is magnesium, because magnesium and phosphates come out. Phosphates are used for making ATP. Magnesium is used for stabilizing ATP. It also sends a signal to your kidneys with the vitamin D to absorb more calcium. But what it's really trying to do is not just absorb more calcium. The body's got plenty of calcium in all the bones. It's trying to absorb more magnesium. Okay, so the parathyroid hormone sends out the signal to elevate calcium that's really trying to get more magnesium to stabilize energy. Was sort of the missing picture of what's going on with the calcium pathway. And then calcitonin is important. If in the body, if calcium gets just way too high, it actually can signal cells to program cell death. So the body has to have a way to keep calcium from getting too high. And also magnesium, there's 300 different pathways in the body that use magnesium. They're more ancient than the calcium pathways. And magnesium is very tightly controlled in the body, the levels. So the thyroid keeps sort of magnesium within the tolerance by modulating calcium. And the calcium system is very complicated. It's with parathyroid hormone, vitamin D. Vitamin D is very complicated, but I'm a vitamin D expert. I wrote probably the best article on vitamin D ever written. So I can really explain vitamin D as well and why it's not working for people if you want. But did that kind of make sense as to what the thyroid is doing? It's regulating energy. It's using iodine. It's using calcium. The iodine makes more ATP energy. The calcium system gets more magnesium to stabilize the ATP energy. So really the thyroid is regulating energy. And then the thyroid has one other thing it does, which is it sort of listens to the brain. The brain has this brain hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, where when the brain wants more energy, it will request more energy from the thyroid. And the thyroid, by regulating the calcium system, can actually elevate blood pressure to get more thyroid iodine containing thyroid hormones up to the brain.
That's
so a lot of people.
That's the TSH.
The TSH.
Stimulate. Okay. Yeah.
Got it. The part that I was missing when I was trying to communicate people is I would talk to people and they'd be like, I got my thyroid hormones tested. And I would look and they had tested TSH. And I'm like, TSH isn't a thyroid hormone. TSH is a brain hormone. So usually when people say they get their thyroid tested, they're actually testing their brain because TSH is produced by the pituitary. Right. And people didn't really understand what that signal is. When TSH is elevated, that is the signal from the brain requesting more energy from the thyroid.
Got it.
And the neuroscientists are kind of arrogant. So they think the brain controls everything. And they think, oh, that's the brain forcing the thyroid to do it. But as the thyroid whisperer, it's more like the brain whispering to the thyroid, like, hey, can you send me more energy? Then the thyroid's like, well, let me check everything. Okay, well, I have enough iodine to send you energy, or I don't. So let me mobilize the calcium pathway. It'll take a lot of different things into consideration before it sends more energy. But if it has enough iodine, it will simply just put more T4 into the blood, elevate the blood pressure to pump that blood up against gravity past the neck to get more energy to the brain. Once the brain feels like it has enough energy, then those TSH levels will go back down, and then the thyroid can drop blood pressure. It doesn't have to get as much energy to the brain. So that's kind of...
Sounds like that would fluctuate quite a bit, depending on what's going on. I mean,
and I found out you can actually almost control that with your mind. Like when you're really focusing and concentrating, like when I was writing that article, I can like elevate my TSH to get my brain to get more energy because I'm working really hard. And then when I relax, it goes back down and I can feel, it's almost like the sympathetic and parasympathetic part of the the brain control. But you almost can sort of control that with your mind a little bit. But it's all autonomic nervous system. Supposedly it all handles itself, but the brain does have some control over it.
Right.
But the big thing most people think that the brain with TSH controls the thyroid. I look at it as the brain requests more energy from the thyroid, and the thyroid kind of takes it under advisement. So I look at the thyroid, not the brain, as the master energy control switchboard of the body.
Wow. Okay.
And it's basically balancing the energy needs of your head and your heart, which is and the rest of your body. But the thyroid is located right above your heart, where it's getting the blood right out the heart and it's monitoring it. And so the physiology of the thyroid, if you look at it, it kind of looks like the shape of a butterfly.
Right.
And the physiology of that, people don't understand why. It has these like wings, butterfly wings, and then there's veins and arteries on either side of it. And so it's the perfect shape and size and place to monitor the blood coming up and down between the body and the brain.
Oh, yeah.
And how often does that happen? Well, it turns out like every few hours, possibly even every single hour, the entire volume of the blood in your body goes through the thyroid. Huh. Can you believe that?
That's amazing.
But it does. And then there's another function of the thyroid besides the energy function, is it's almost like a blood filter in a way, because when your thyroid has a lot of iodine there, iodine is germicidal. So any kind of parasites, cancer, mold, anything going in the blood past the neck, when your thyroid's working optimally, it will fry it and actually purify and clean your blood as it's going.
That's interesting. So it's
it has.
Yeah, it keeps that from even getting close to the blood-brain barrier. It tries to stop it before it gets up here.
Yeah, it purifies the blood before it even gets to the blood-brain barrier. And then your pineal is the hormone secreting part of the blood-brain barrier that you really have to protect. The blood is on one side, the cerebrospinal fluid is on the other side. Right. And so iodine also protects that, gold protects that, fluoride screws it up. But yes, your body has sort of multiple. So anyway, and then also the thyroid is located very close to the thymus, which is able to monitor those veins and get a good immunological function there also. So the thyroid is really a multifaceted thing. Its primary thing it's doing is it's controlling energy, but it's also protecting you like a guardian angel, which goes into the name. Thyroid means shield.
Oh, no kidding.
Were you aware of that?
No, I didn't know that. And
yeah,
it actually kind of looks like a shield too. I mean, the
thyroid doesn't look like a shield, but the thyroid cartilage right above it looks like a shield.
Okay.
So there's like the thyroid cartilage, which is men have an Adam's apple.
Yes.
That's from the thyroid cartilage.
No kidding.
Both men and women have a thyroid cartilage. It's just more obvious in men.
Right.
But that's cartilage that looks like a shield, but the actual thyroid gland itself is underneath that, and it looks more like a butterfly.
Interesting. So it's actually shielding it.
But it also shields you. It's kind of, so if you read my newsletter, I used to think of the thyroid as butterfly shaped, which it is, but because of sort of the web of lies we live in, butterflies get trapped by a spider. My thyroid sort of transformed, and the way I think of my thyroid now is as like wings of, I wanted to explain this. So, like in the Bible, like tongue of fire. Mm-hmm. So the most interesting, cool thing I learned is that the thyroid is actually formed from your tongue.
Wow.
Yes. So like literally the bottom of your tongue, like it goes down and forms your thyroid. And you can think about all the tasting functions of your tongue. So like your thyroid has these like tasting functions where it's sort of like sampling the blood to test it.
Interesting.
But because it controls energy, fire in the body, your thyroid is like a tongue of fire.
Right.
And so and that's like the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is imagined as a dove. And so I'm now imagining my thyroid, instead of a butterfly, as dove wings with an armored helmet, because your head is up here, the thyroid cartilage. So it's like an armored dove.
Wow, that's pretty
cool. And then that transformed into, now I'm recommending the way I'm seeing my thyroid is as a guardian angel. Right. Your thyroid is essentially your guardian angel. And so I like to see it as angel wings.
That's nice.
But no matter what, there's sort of like a shield and a wings looking structure going on there.
No, and it's a very misunderstood organ system. I mean, I don't really think that people have I don't, certainly. And it's funny because I've struggled with my weight since I was a kid, and my mom, used to always say to me, honey, I just don't understand why you're so heavy. You don't eat that much. And she was like, it must be your thyroid. And oh my gosh, I had my thyroid tested every 6 ways from Sunday, because it's every fat person's dream. Oh yes, it must be a thyroid problem, right? But it's very nuanced too. So I find this quite fascinating. The other thing that I'm very interested in from my own perspective is how because I was exposed to diethylstilbestrol, which also known as DES, which was supposedly a drug that was made by Eli Lilly to keep women from having miscarriages. And my mom had 4 miscarriages before me, and then I was born premature, and so I was with jaundice, yellow jaundice, which is liver issues. And then I was in incubator, of course. When you're premature, they put you in that incubator thing. And then I promptly got colic, probably because they were feeding me soy formula, and had colic for 6 months. And then when I was 13, I had Reye's syndrome, which is also another liver issue. And so, who knows what's going on, but, where I grew up, I also found out that and where I'm going with this is chemical exposures. So when there was an outbreak of Reye's syndrome in 1974, and it was geographically, and I lived in Indianapolis, and I was one of the places. And so there also is some connection between Reye's syndrome and phenithrione, I think, is a pesticide. And so, what I'm leading up to is I want to hear from you how
About detox?
well, yeah, and how various chemicals, because what I was told about diethylstilbestrol is it's a mutagen. So it has changed the way that my body functions in some form or fashion, and I can't change it back. So, and I know that there's a lot of different chemicals out there, particularly pesticides and herbicides and things like that, that are impacting people's, for lack of a better word, endocrine and hormone systems, because that's really what we're talking about with thyroid. So can you talk a little bit about chemicals and...
Yeah, let me explain how I can help anyway.
Yeah, great.
It's just with learning about the iodine nutrient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And iodine is not only just used for energy, it's also used for detox. Okay. And the way that iodine works chemically, it behaves chemically similar to oxygen. And all of chemistry is based on oxygen, oxidation, reduction. Just like oxygen, iodine can oxidize any element on the entire periodic table. And the body can use iodine not only for energy, but it can use iodine to actually detox anything that isn't supposed to be there. And when you detox, it requires energy. So it both gives you energy and it's used for detox at the same time.
Nice.
And so a lot of these really hard to get rid of chemicals and toxins you can actually get rid of with iodine. But having iodine makes your thyroid function. So basically having your thyroid guardian angel working correctly really goes a long way to protect you from those things. You mentioned miscarriage. Basically, when you're low iodine, there's higher incidence of miscarriage. A lot of women it's mostly women interested in the thyroid because women have about 7 times more thyroid problems than men. And what I learned is that was a big mystery to mainstream medicine. They'll tell you that statistic, but they won't explain why. But you'll notice that about 70 to 80% of people with thyroid problems are all women. And women are like, well, what the heck? Why do I have these problems and men don't? It's not fair. Turns out the brains work similarly, the thyroid works similarly, but the bodies are different. And so what the thyroid is doing, it's balancing the energy needs of the brain and the body. And women just need a lot more energy for their body. Right. And they have much larger iodine storage capacity than men. It turns out that the breast tissue is embryologically related to thyroid tissue also. So it's like your breasts are designed to store massive amounts of iodine and women. And so the higher incidence of thyroid problems in women is just a reflection of women need more iodine than men. And there's a sex specific dose difference for men and women. Right. So a lot of those problems is just usually iodine deficiency.
Right.
And it's estimated that about 96% of Americans are iodine deficient. So men and women are both short on iodine, but it hurts women much, much more. It's
Right.
estimated 4 to 10 times more, about 7 times more on average.
Right. Well, a lot of people don't realize this, but when I was growing up, bread was actually made using iodine, and
Yes,
now it's
iodide.
using an iodide, right? And now it's using a iodine antagonist called bromine or bromolate. So basically,
You're so
there's
smart, and I mean people know that. That's awesome.
yeah, no, I mean it's crazy. I mean, and so it's very hard to get iodine.
So,
I mean,
and there are different forms of
yeah,
iodine, and there's sort of a waking up process to learn the difference between iodide to Lugol solution to nascent iodine used in a system like I do. So there's actually generations of having to learn about iodine. But long story short, a thing I forgot to talk about is your thyroid has something that I'm now referring to as an iodine recycling pathway.
okay,
Okay. And the thing is that iodide form of iodine is like the unenergized form of iodine,
okay,
whereas nascent iodine is like the energized form of iodine. Your thyroid needs energized iodine, but it has this is sort of another backup system on the iodine side to get more iodine, where it can actually take in iodide using sodium, the sodium iodide symporter, to bring it into the thyroid. And then it uses this enzyme, thyroid peroxidase, which uses oxidative damage, to re-energize the iodine and then attach it to thyroid hormones. And that system, which I consider a backup system for iodine, is promoted by the mainstream as the main energy system of the thyroid. But to me, that's just a backup system. But the problem is when people get thyroid problems, which a lot of times is just mercury from dental amalgam screwing up their thyroids, their thyroid loses the ability to use that backup system.
right,
And but when your thyroid is working smoothly and you have plenty of antioxidants, it needs some selenium and some other stuff, glutathione and other stuff. But your thyroid is designed that when it uses that iodine backup system to re-energize iodide, it can potentially create oxidative damage. And if you get low oxidants, it can actually your thyroid can fry itself trying to get more energy.
wow,
But back in the day, when people had relatively healthy thyroids, just that little bit of iodide they put in bread was enough for people to get by, because the body, when the thyroid was working healthily, could take that in and then energize it and use it.
right,
And a good example of that, my wife's grandmother didn't have thyroid problems, but all of her children did.
right,
And I noticed, I went to her house and I'm like, what are you doing differently? And she was using an old bread recipe that had some iodide in it. And just that little bit of iodide was enough to protect her thyroid, because she kept her thyroid healthy her whole life, fortunately.
right.
Whereas her children did not, because they had grown up with the bread with the bromine. And it's not just bromine, they chlorinated bleach flour.
Ugh.
So there's
Well, and now we have
chlorine
the glyphosate
and
is on everything too.
brominated flour. So
Right.
the chlorine and the bromine interfere with iodine, and fluoride and fluorine interfere with the worst. So those are the halogen toxins that shut down iodine. Fluoride is the worst because fluoride shuts down both sides of the energy pathway. It interferes with iodine and it binds insolubly with calcium. So
Hmm.
the one thing that will really shut down your entire energy system really well is fluoride. And the
Yeah.
only way to flush it out is with iodine and gold. And I use iodine, gold, and silver together in my detox system.
Fascinating. Well, that actually, let's talk a little bit. So that's so fascinating. I'm really interested in it. One of the things that I actually went for a heavy metals test because, I've been teaching herbal medicine. I'm not a scientist. I'm a more of a rolling around in the dirt kind of herbalist. And very intuitive and very right brained about the whole thing, as opposed to left brain, which is what I did when I did finance. But one of the things, like, I'm drinking stinging nettle leaf infusion today, and
Okay, nice.
so roughly, and again, I'm fundraising because I'd like to have these tested as made, right? Because the only thing I can get is proxies, like, oh, how much is a quarter cup of stinging nettle leaf, like, braised, right? And it'll tell me all the nutrients and stuff. But I really want to get these tested as made, but somewhere around 350 to 400 milligrams per cup of calcium, along with magnesium and all the trace minerals. I mean, nature provides the right ratios, is kind of where I'm coming from, right? Is like, okay, it's rather than take this supplement, but if you take this supplement, you got to also take this supplement, and you got to take this supplement and this because they all go together. Why don't you just, nature's already done all of that math. So
I wanted to mention before I forget, the way the plant that you can get iodine from is sea vegetables.
Yes, kelp.
You've heard that, right? I want to make sure we say that because we're on the Herbalist channel.
Absolutely. Yes, because it's a key constituent. But anyway, so, and one of my favorite ways to do that, by the way, because look, let's face it, people don't really like the taste of seaweed all that much. Look, I mean, when you eat your sushi, okay, you're getting a little tiny bit, wrapped around, the fake fish or whatever. But one of my favorite ways is if you get the kombu, which is that giant stick seaweed. Okay, you're making soup, you're making chili, you're making whatever it is. Just stick a big, a couple of big sticks of the kombu down in the thing that you're cooking. Because as you cook it, it will actually release the iodine into your soup, and then the thing is so giant, and so you can pull it out, right, when it's depleted. So, you don't actually have to eat it, but you get the benefit of it. And I always recommend people cook things for a long time to release all of the goodies inside the cell wall of the plant. Because that's the other thing people don't understand. Plants have a very tough cell wall that you're not going to get anything out of raw food except for a little color and some liquid, maybe a little vitamin C, but all of the goodies are actually tightly held behind the cell wall. And
you mentioned vitamin C. I do want to talk about that for a second.
Please.
So looking at what mainstream medicine is not saying about the thyroid, which they should be, they don't talk about parathyroid hormone. So they're missing the whole calcium pathway. They're not talking about magnesium, part of that. They are mentioning vitamin D, but they're not really showing how vitamin D works, with calcium, not magnesium. But what I found when I researched vitamin D and wrote this article on vitamin D is that one of the important things to make vitamin D work correctly is vitamin C. And they are not mentioning vitamin C at all. They are like hiding the importance of vitamin C in mainstream medicine when it comes to the thyroid. I know that sounds crazy, but you have to have vitamin C to reduce this iron, this free iron. And I used to think that all the iron in the body was contained, like in hemoglobin, but there's actually some free iron in the body. You actually have to have vitamin C to keep that free iron reduced. That free iron is used in this hydroxylase enzyme, and there's 3 different activations of vitamin D. So you have to have, long story short, you have to have that daily vitamin C to make your vitamin D work. Wow. So a lot of people with having problems with the calcium side of the thyroid function, and they're struggling with their vitamin D not working, they need that vitamin C to make it work. And they need a bunch of other stuff too, like sunshine and cholesterol and stuff like that. And also they tell people not to do cholesterol. So people, they lie about egg nutrition. But a really important nutrition 101 thing that I think that everyone should know, that apparently most people don't know, is that you can get every nutrient you need. Every nutrient is found in an egg except for one. Do you know which one it is? Every single nutrient except for one is in an egg.
I don't know.
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C. So like an egg and an orange juice diet, but you have to go to plants to get that vitamin C.
Right.
So as far as talking about the thyroid and plants, the thing that people might not know is they may need to really focus on getting that daily plant vitamin C to make their vitamin D work, to make their calcium side of their thyroid work, and also do iodine to balance that thyroid function. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah, but well, what you really hear is that, and again, I'm not a chemist, I don't really know, but I hear people all the time saying, oh, if you're going to take vitamin D, make sure you also take K3 or K2 or some K something or other.
K is supposed to help with the calcium system. However, just last month, I wrote an article on vitamin K, and it is very controversial, and I don't recommend it because it has all this really dark stuff with warfarin and all this stuff, and they're giving vitamin K to kids.
Warfarin? Oh, yeah, the rat poison?
The rat poison.
Blood
And
thinner.
you
I
can
know.
read my vitamin D article, but basically I'm unconvinced and highly disturbed concerning vitamins K. So
Okay.
I can't give you a thumbs up or thumb down. I will tell you that everywhere I look, I see propaganda saying to take vitamin K with vitamin D. However, it seems to me that that might actually just be propaganda, and I'm telling you to take vitamin D with vitamin C, not
Gotcha.
vitamin D with vitamin K.
And
But
see, and that this is exactly why I always remind people that advertising speech is, you should expect it to be a lie. Because if somebody is selling a product, and present company included, if I'm selling a product, I believe in it, and the law allows me to lie about it. They call it puffery. I can exaggerate. I can actually outright lie. So I'm not saying that everybody who sells a product is lying, but to your excellent point, it's propaganda. It's basically
I'm
information.
saying it might be. I've researched vitamin K a lot, and I'm just
Yeah,
unconvinced.
yeah. Well,
I'm
and
not saying I'm right or wrong on that.
right.
I'm not convinced yet.
But
Okay.
what I am suggesting is that, and the you know always get two or three other data points, and most importantly, can learn how to connect with your wise healer within, to give you direction in terms of what it is that you're choosing. Because it's funny. I've been doing, I talk to all kinds of doctors. I definitely want to connect you with Dr. Judy Mikovits, because I think you'll have a lot in
Oh, you're
common.
friends with her? She's very famous. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
she's a good friend of mine. And
I wrote an article based on her book a couple years ago about
oh,
vaccine detox. Yeah,
yeah,
I've never met her in person, but I mean, she's had a huge influence on my life for sure.
yeah. So, but because you guys can speak each other's language, she was on a Dr. Lee Merritt show last night, and I've had her on a few times on Weeds of Wisdom, and it's just so hard, for the average non-science person to follow her. But one of the things that I really love about Dr. Judy is, I think one of the shows we didn't even get off of her bio page. I think we were on her bio page for half an hour, because she's like, "I'm not a doctor, I'm a scientist," right? And then she was talking about the definition of science. And so, because I talk about, there are three traditions of healing: scientific and holistic and wise women. And she's like, "Oh, no, no, no." I was like, "Okay, so what is your definition of science?" And you know what she said? Blew me away. She says, "Well, science is really observing nature and translating the way nature works into a language that we can understand." And wow, that just kind of blew me away, because it's so many times,
That's
scientists.
a high level understanding of science. That basically everything we know we learn from nature. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I just, I think that there's that attitude, right, where like the Native Americans, they see everything as family, including the plants and the trees and the rocks and the river and the sky. And they're all just family, right? They're not something that for me to manipulate. And so
And
I found that beautiful.
I got a start in engineering and science, but I consider myself like an old school doctor, like ancient Egyptian type doctor, the Hippocratic oath from the hippopotamus
Right.
type. The hippopotamus will eat the tail of the crocodile who messes with the children, and they sort of crossed the line and they started poisoning children with these vaccines and other stuff. And it's sort of you're talking about finding and awakening DNA inside yourself. I sort of found and awakened DNA. I'm like a doctor hunter almost. Like I will find and point out and destroy fake doctors. And unfortunately, most of the people claiming to be doctors nowadays are actually fake doctors, because you see them violating the Hippocratic oath. So by the ancient definition of being a doctor, they're not a doctor.
Right.
And it's important for people not to listen to people who are fake doctors.
I completely agree with that.
But it's hard to tell the difference. And but it's not hard to tell the difference. If they are violating the Hippocratic oath and poisoning children, they are not a doctor by the ancient definition. So
No, and
we
I
just
agree.
had we have this whole system where the doctors got screwed up, where the judicial system got screwed up, and the money system got screwed up. And it's all related with the contracts, because with the legal side, you have to have real money, real consideration, and real money is gold. And it turns out that the real value of gold and silver is actually for medicine. Yeah. Like silver and gold are medicinal and healing for your brain and body, and your gold. And so, yeah. and so anyway, I want to get back to nutrition for a minute. Yeah. I sort of redid, I don't know if you know this, but just a couple months ago, I wrote an article where I sort of redid the entire vitamin and mineral alphabet. So, we have this vitamin, you've heard the vitamin alphabet, right?
Yeah.
But you think because there's vitamins A, B, C, that there must be a whole alphabet of vitamins, right? Tricks people into thinking there's a whole alphabet of vitamin, but it's only A, B, C, D, E, K that are used. Only 6 letters are used.
Right.
A, B, C, D, E, K. And all the others are vitamins. So first of all, the old vitamin alphabet itself was a propaganda to trick you into thinking that there's a whole vitamin. Most of them are B vitamins. There's like 12 different B vitamins.
Right.
Because A, there's like B 1 through 12. And all that wall of B vitamins is sort of like propaganda to keep you from getting to vitamin C.
Interesting.
Vitamin C is so important, but then it turns out vitamin D is so important, and people don't understand it and how it relates to the calcium. And then vitamin E is interesting antioxidant. And then vitamin K, I just got all kinds of bad juju when I was researching vitamin K. So the vitamin alphabet was not sufficient because it was missing all the minerals, like
right.
zinc. Zinc, think you want to say vitamins A to zinc, but zinc is not a vitamin, it's a mineral. Right. So I had to make a new combined vitamin and mineral alphabet, because you need to put zinc on there. You need to put magnesium on there, manganese, all these other minerals that people need to learn about when they're learning nutrition. And so I did it by making a combined vitamin plus mineral alphabet.
That's a great idea.
I already did it. You can read it.
Cool.
But what's disturbing about it is vitamin A, I demoted to vitamin R.
Oh, really?
Yeah, vitamin A is retinoic acid, retinol, measured in Ray. It should be vitamin R. Vitamin A is not important enough to be in the A slot.
Interesting.
Okay. But in the new vitamin and mineral alphabet, I now have A1, vitamin A is no longer a vitamin. I just have mineral A, and mineral A is actually 3 different minerals. I have mineral A1, A2, and A3, aurum, argentum, and iodine.
Interesting.
So the 3 things that I'm promoting, in my opinion, based on the new vitamin mineral alphabet, are actually the new minerals A1, 2, and 3. And they are the most important minerals that people are missing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I just also wanted to make a point that, just like the vitamin alphabet, I mean, men with an agenda have been manipulating systems like that for, generations, and so, there's a purpose behind it. I mean, why do you think that Rockefeller needed to get rid of all the midwives and the herbalists and the naturopaths to create his business model, right? Because the truth of the matter is, true health is our birthright, and we are provided everything in abundance that we need to have and maintain that health. It's only when people start making, chemicals and, feeding them to us, and creating a poor environment that we don't thrive. And
what I want women to know is that the thyroid has been used like a slave collar around your neck. Okay. By not learning about the thyroid and not getting enough iodine, you're actually enslaved by your thyroid, because it's so starved for iodine. Usually your brain isn't getting enough because your body isn't getting enough. And that's why women are having 7 times more thyroid problems than men. Right. Women have a huge higher potential for health and higher potential for intelligence if they will get enough iodine, because then that will allow their thyroid to function correctly, getting enough energy to their body. So what's happening is women are just being starved for iodine, and their thyroid's having to decide where to send it. So it's decreasing fertility, it's decreasing intelligence, and I can trace this stuff back like 3,000 years at least. I really feel like it's been used like a slave collar, where the people who know how to use the thyroid versus the people who don't, because you can find the thyroid in all the ancient Greek stuff, in the ancient Norse stuff, in the ancient Egyptian stuff, and even in the ancient Mesopotamian stuff. And so my newest newsletter, I track that down. And so I found the oldest way to think about the thyroid, the feminine way, is the butterfly. But the problem is the butterfly got enslaved by the cult of Athena, who is the spider, because butterflies can be trapped by spiders.
Right.
So then you can change your thyroid into a dove, like the Holy Spirit, to eat the spider. But the oldest way to imagine the thyroid, the female way, was as the labrys, double-bladed golden axe.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have.
Like from the Minoan, and that's thought to be possibly the oldest symbol of like woman power.
Wow, that's really fascinating.
Okay, so what I'm telling you, like, I'm a guy, but I'm trying to help women here. But like, learning about your thyroid is like the ultimate woman power.
Right. Well, and that's and just let me bring that full circle. I mean, I think that when women thrive, humanity thrives, and when women don't thrive, humanity doesn't thrive, because we're the portals to this physical world, like it or not. And so I think if one has an agenda which doesn't involve thriving for humanity, the quickest way from point A to point B is to suppress the female. And we've certainly, I mean, how else to explain why medicine doesn't even really they don't test their medicines on females. Almost all of the testing is done on males. And we used to joke around when I was apprenticing that being female was like a disease. Well, it's like, well, obviously, because they treat all of our, natural functions like some sort of disease, so that's fascinating.
The thyroid is really where the rubber hits the road as to the dosing differences between men and women. Wow. So to give you an idea, my nascent iodine, new iodine, 1 drop of it is 100% RDA, but I'm recommending that men use 2 drops. Okay. But I'm recommending that women work up to 4 drops, and pregnant and breastfeeding women work up to 6 drops.
Okay.
So based on what the government is saying, women need 4 to 6 times more, possibly 7, 8, or 9 times more. But it just usually the more is usually during pregnancy and stuff. But just on average, women need like at least 4 times more iodine than men.
Wow, I did not know that. I knew about during pregnancy. Dr. Brownstein, I've followed him for a long time, has been preaching about iodine for a long time. And pregnant women need like even more.
So I'm promoting 600. So I'm promoting, 200% for men, 400% for women, 600% for pregnant or breastfeeding women. But there really is a time during pregnancy where it's almost like 800%. So it's like, wow. But on average, if pregnant or breastfeeding women are using 600%, it'll average out to them having enough. But a lot of that, so the iodine goes to the baby, and then it goes in the breast milk for the baby.
Right.
And then the woman runs out of iodine in her thyroid, and you'll see right after giving birth. It used to be after the second baby, but now it's even after the first baby. Women are immediately getting breast cancer, thyroid cancer, ovarian cancer. A lot of it now is that women have polycystic ovarian disease from like aluminum in their ovaries. So a lot of it's like a vaccine aluminum detox thing that's depleting their iodine. So remember, I have a concept called iodine burn. Iodine, like vitamin C, is a daily nutrient. Okay. You need to get it every day because your body is always burning through it for energy. Your body can recycle some of it using that iodine recycling pathway, but it doesn't work very well, and especially in today's society with a bunch of toxins, that actually your thyroid can damage itself doing that. So it's almost like the big message is you need iodine and vitamin C daily.
Right.
Forgot where I was going with that, but what was the thing?
Iodine and vitamin C are you have to replenish them every day, because your body is using them, right? So you can't just, it's not a one and done. And
because the iodine is used for energy, but it's also, when you have extra iodine, it's also used for detox.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people have a high level of toxins,
yeah,
and a low level of iodine, and their body is using all of the iodine they have for energy, and it doesn't have any extra for detox. And so their toxins levels stay high.
Right.
And so that's why I'm recommending extra, like 200% for men, is because you need that one drop for function, but you need that second drop for detox. And so usually when people need even more iodine is for the detox, but that's when you get into the dose ramping where you don't do it too fast, because you can detox too fast. The biggest toxin people are dealing with, like so many people are dealing with, mercury. Mainstream medicine will not touch mercury. They do not want to admit that the dentist poisoned everybody in their mouth with mercury, and all that mercury has gone into everybody's thyroids, and most of people's advanced thyroid problems are just depleted with their iodine's all depleted, trying to detox the mercury out of their body for a lot of people.
Well, it's interesting. I got onto this whole detox thing last year around this time. I'm always learning, and so I was learning how, because again, I'm always looking for evidence of our perfection, right? The body's got it, our creator really kind of anticipated anything that could go wrong. And because I don't think man's smarter than God, so I don't think his gadgets or chemicals or whatever will ever win the day, because God, Mother Nature, always bats last. But anyway, what I discovered was that generally, if your body is sufficiently mineralized, it will chelate the heavy metals and the toxins and all that stuff on its own. So, because what I was always taught is toxins come in two varieties, generally speaking. They're either water soluble and you pee them out, or they're fat soluble, and the body is basically going to stick that in a protective lipid so the body isn't exposed to whatever the thing is. So it encases it in a little fat bubble. So the thing that always concerned me about people talking about purge, cleanse, detox, was I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I've got this fat soluble toxin somewhere lodged inside of me. Safely, the body is taking care of it. So now you're suggesting you want me to drag it out of that protective lipid through my interstitial fluid to dispose of it. Doesn't that sound like it's going to expose me to some?
Yeah, and that's the problem with detoxing like mercury and lead. When they're in the zero form, they'll be in the fats, but to detox them, you actually have to put them in the ionic form, where they can cause damage. The reason they cause damage is because like lead Pb2+ and mercury Hd2+, they form these positively 2+ ions that interfere with calcium, magnesium, and zinc, because calcium is Ca2+, magnesium Mg2+, and zinc 2+. And there's 16,000 calcium pathways, 3,000 zinc pathways, 300 magnesium pathways. So when these toxins like heavy metals detox out of you, they can cause damage on the way out. But your body has ways to negate that damage. The way that I negate it, so iodine can actually oxidize them. So like take Pb0, grab some electrons to make it Pb2+, so the body can chelate it and you can pee it out. Usually comes out of your urine, out of your skin, or through your gut, are the three main ways. But absolutely. So like for mercury, taking silver with the iodine protects you from mercury. Also selenium protects from mercury. Big one is your body chelates a lot of stuff using sulfur, which forms S2-. And selenium is in the same family as sulfur. It's like a super sulfur. Oh, okay. Selenium is selenide. Okay. So selenium is like a really big chelator of heavy metals. And I told you the thyroid is like super expert at energy and detox, keeping its energy working. That's why the highest concentration of selenium in the body is in the thyroid.
Fascinating.
So if your thyroid's out of whack, it's bad, because that's what your thyroid does, is it keeps you detox. But so you're absolutely right. So that's why when you detox, you also have, so with my system, when you detox with iodine, it's not anti-inflammatory. It does so many different things, but it's not anti-inflammatory. You take it with anti-inflammatories, like turmeric's anti-inflammatory, but I use colloidal silver and colloidal gold. Silver's anti-inflammatory in the body, gold's anti-inflammatory in the brain. So by detoxing with iodine, with silver and gold at the same time, you're flushing stuff out, but you're also protecting. For instance, like you really have to protect your kidneys, because when you're peeing stuff out, it goes through your kidneys on the way out, and it can, like mercury can damage your kidneys on the way out if you're not protecting them with silver and selenium, for example.
Good point.
Makes sense?
Yes. No. Well, and that's just sort of validated just my intuitive thought about that. I was like, well, wait, why would I want to do that? Because it seemed like my body had it handled, but the way you're explaining it, um, using the gold and the silver and the iodine, you can actually get around a lot of that damage.
Yeah, you have to have a system to get around that, but also dose ramping.
Okay.
Okay, so dose ramping is like you do 1 drop of the new iodine the first week, then you go to 2 the next week, then 3, then 4. Women work up to 4 and stay at 4, but you don't just start at 4. The reason you go up slowly is that you make sure you're not detoxing too fast. If you're detoxing too fast, you just stay at that level for another week before you go up.
Right. Oh, so interesting.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
So dose ramping and a system with anti-inflammatories is the key to solving that.
Right. Now, for the listeners who want to actually get more of your work, where's the best place to go? You mentioned you have a blog or a Substack. Can you?
Yeah, my website, iMedDo.Club, IMEDDO.CLUB.
Okay.
And on there, it's got the newsletter, and on that, it's got a button for archive, and you can see all the archives of articles I've written. And I've got articles on like all kinds of stuff, all the vitamins. I've got like really good ones. I got a good one on vitamin D. I've got a good one on like mercury detox, lead detox. I feel like I'm the expert for detox. I'm really, really well known for I've got an article on almost every heavy metal, mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, aluminum, all that kind of detox stuff. I spent years doing that, but more recently I've been focusing on talking about the different nutrients as well. So now I've got vitamin A, B. I don't have all the B's yet. I've got B9 and B12. I've still got more B vitamins to write about, but I've got a really great article on vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, and I have a really great article that combined vitamin mineral alphabet where I propose a new way to learn nutrition.
I love that. No, I really love that. So it's iMedDo.
.CLUB club.
.club.club. Okay.
And I have iMedDo.com as well. It's just sort of a deprecated website. It got messed up. I tried to put it on the blockchain and it got all screwed up and I don't even know how to fix it. So I have iMedDo.com as well. You can read some stuff there, but my main website now is iMedDo.Club.
iMedDo.Club. Okay. So I'll make sure that I put that in the show notes so that people can actually get there and get some more information. And so let's talk a little bit more about the products themselves that you're the new line NEU. So you do gold, silver, and iodine. And
yes.
I don't really have a pretty picture to show. I don't know if you have any of them that you could put up on the screen, but
so I offer these products through my church, iMedDo Foundation, which is a church auxiliary of iMedDo Self-Supported Ministry. So I don't sell them. I offer them as gift for donation now. And they're just amazing. And in my opinion, like I say, they're the new mineral A1, A2, A3, where the old vitamin A is now, I relegate it to vitamin R, and I've just completely redone the vitamin mineral alphabet. So silver and gold are noble metals, not heavy metals. And they are actually, in my opinion, nutrient. They're not recognized by mainstream medicine as it, but they clearly are nutrients. And you can get them from plants, just especially if the plants grow in areas where they absorb them. So like, I
never thought
like
about
certain rivers, like the Amazon River and over like in Lydia, Turkey and stuff, where people, have you heard the old story of Jason and the golden fleece?
Yes.
They'd put the sheepskin in the river and little gold and silver nuggets would get caught in it. And then they noticed they would take the sheepskin and then put it in some water, and then they'd drink that water and it had health properties.
Right.
From the golden fleece. But it was from the gold and silver stuck in the fleece that they had absorbed from the river.
I do remember having, because I used to be a bartender and I used to drink quite a lot. And I remember having something called Goldschlager, which is some kind of a liquor. Oh man, it just knocked me on my backside. But remember, it had little flecks of gold in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the food grade gold is even smaller than that, like nano size. So what's really healthy is nano-colloidal silver and gold, where the particles are about 10 nanometers in size.
What does colloidal mean?
So the easiest way to explain colloidal is if you took some dirt and you just threw it in water, it would settle to the bottom, right?
Right.
But imagine the particles are so small that the thermal motion of the water would keep them suspended.
I got it.
They're not so small that they dissolve, but they stay suspended. So colloidal, the word colloidal implies a small size where it's not so small it dissolves, but it will just the thermal motion of the water will keep it suspended. So the colloidal particles of silver and gold are little to get, and I did the calculation, and I think like a 10 nanometer particle of silver was like 2,000 silver atoms.
Okay.
So it's not like a single atom, but it's bigger than that. But the colloidal silver and gold releases single atoms of silver and gold from it. So people talk about monoatomic gold. The colloidal gold releases monoatomic gold. The colloidal silver releases silver ion, Ag+, which is the one that has all these antibacterial properties and stuff. But actually, the colloidal particles themselves have these weird biophotonic energetic properties. And I was demonstrating at the fair that like you could hold a silver coin, your heart actually wirelessly, actually I'm wearing a silver necklace now. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
But when you have silver, it wirelessly interacts with your heart to amplify your heart's field. I don't know how better to describe that, but it does.
That's really cool. Well, and when you were talking about autonomic gold, I was just reminded of Greg Reese did a thing within the last year talking about the heart is not really a pump, it's a vortex. And there's a man who's been, you can actually unfold the heart, and it's actually creating a vortex. And the theory is that it's actually creating autonomic gold in the body, and actually you'd have to go check it out, but I was like,
I've never heard that, but yeah, the idea of if it's pumping a vortex, it's making things spin, and spinning electrical fields make magnetic fields,
right.
And all these ions in our blood and body are all electrical and magnetic, and figuring out how all the different systems work. It's very confusing in the body because our body doesn't just use electrons like we think of electricity. It does use electrons like on the electron transport chain, but our body actually, for most energy, it converts that into proton energy. So instead of moving negatively charged stuff, a lot of stuff in your body is moving positively charged stuff.
Right.
Okay. So the hydrogen ions, and so that they go across the membrane for the ATPase, and then it stores the energy in the ATP in the phosphate bonds. And what I figured out is there's another way that the body stores energy in iodine, in these energized iodine molecules in thyroid hormones that people didn't really understand.
Wow, that's so fascinating. Okay. All right. So I just pulled up the iMedDo.Club. Let me just share the screen so people can see what that.
So yeah, silver is antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory. And gold has all these amazing brain protective. And silver is also the antidote to mercury. Gold is the antidote to lead. Gold is it's really good for anxiety, mood, depression, rheumatoid arthritis. Is sort of what gold does. Gold is sort of a better mineral than copper in a way. It has 50 more electrons. Your body uses copper in a balance with zinc. Copper's a quasi-heavy metal that you can get too much copper, and your copper's too high. It's got to be balanced with zinc, or you can use gold instead. But it's like gold is sort of a preferred nutrient for the brain, where it seems like silver is more preferred by the heart. The electrical engineers will tell you if you have a gold wire and an electrical wire, do you know which one is more electrically conductive?
It would be the silver.
Yeah, it's actually the silver is more electrically conductive than gold in a wire, but silver isn't used by our brain properly. Our brain prefers gold. So intrinsically, you feel that gold is more electrically conductive for your brain because it is. Silver is good for the lymphatic part of the brain, but it doesn't do the brain proper, whereas iodine gets everywhere in your body, brain and body.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about because they use gold on the lunar, NASA uses gold as a protector in space. So I was
and usually it's more like
otherwise it'd be like zapped out of the sky.
Usually silver protects and gold amplifies.
Interesting.
So silver and gold are really good together because silver will block out the interference and gold lets you really tune into something.
Cool. Okay, great. So iMedDo.Club is the place to get more information, and I really encourage people. And then you have videos down here, and you can.
That's a very old video, very bad quality.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
okay. But the information. Oh, you got the whiteboard too, so that's all good. Look,
I think in some of those old videos, I was trying to explain back then the different types of iodine and how they're used, and the big message is that there's sort of a, when you learn about, if you want to learn about the thyroid nutrient, if you want to learn about the thyroid gland, the most important mineral nutrient to learn about is iodine, but it's very difficult to learn about. You'll first learn about iodide, then you'll learn about Lugol solution, which has molecular and iodide. Then if you get farther, you'll learn about nascent iodine. And what I have is the highest quality nascent iodine used in the system with silver and gold. So there's sort of a progression of learning about iodine. But long story short, you're thinking about fat soluble versus water soluble. It's like molecular iodine, I2 is like fat soluble. Iodide, I minus, is water soluble. And then nascent iodine is, nascent means newly born. When the I2 is energized, it splits into two atoms of single atoms of iodine, but they differ by an electron than iodide, and they're energized versus unenergized. So the way that's helpful is thinking about energized iodine versus unenergized iodine. You can also think of it as fat soluble iodine versus water soluble iodine. The thyroid is in this in-between place where there is this stuff called the thyroid colloid, which is a different use of the word colloid than what we were talking about before, where it's talking about, it's an in-between being fat and water soluble, where it's able to take the water soluble iodide for the iodine recycling, but it's also able to take fat soluble pre-energized iodine to make those thyroid hormones. But then ultimately energized iodine does not like water, so it has to package them in these thyroid hormones to put them in the blood, back in the water.
Fascinating.
So it's like thyroid hormones are the body's way of sending out energy in the blood for energy that otherwise wouldn't be stable in the blood. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it. Wow, aren't we amazingly made? I mean, really, when you really, start to really just think about how all of this really complex, intricate, the way our bodies work, it's a miracle. I mean, it's just wondrous. And and I think, unfortunately modern medicine has been, we're not great customers when we have that attitude, right? We're not really looking to, once we recognize how wonderfully divinely made we are, we just have no need for these white-coated people for the most part. But I think that we're a threat to the business, but that is so beautiful. It's interesting too. I wanted to just, so my story. So last fall I was like, oh, well, I've been drinking mineral rich, nourishing herbal infusions for 17 years. I'm really mineralized. Let me go get my metals tested. And then, so my friend Lee Merritt says, well, you could do a hair test, but it's not hair mineral test, but it's not as accurate. You should do the EDTA chelation urine challenge. So I ended up doing that, which I felt weird when it started, because it's just not my style. But anyway, so what's my point? So they actually called me to tell me that my lead was so high that they recommended that I come back immediately for 3 EDTA chelations per week at 150 a pop. But hey, if you buy the 10-pack, it's only $100 a pop. And I'm going, well, wait. So anyway, so I lived in a house with lead paint, and I had all the paint stripped off 30 years ago in Long Island. So, plus leaded gas was a thing when I was a kid.
Yeah, the loony gas, yeah.
Right? So, who knows? But the interesting thing was, so then I was like, wow, now what do I do? Because in our tradition, we don't really teach purge, cleanse, detox, because that's usually code for damage and destroy the body. And so I was like, wow, well, I've got to really do something about this lead. So anyway, it took me a couple of months, but I did a bunch of research, and I asked my wise healer within, and so I went on and started using this product called Masterpiece, which is just zeolite and pico nanometer size, and
clay is very good for detox. Zeolite's type of clay.
Sea plasma, that's what it was. There's just 2 ingredients I loved. So anyway, so then
was there iodine in the C part?
Don't know, but anyway, so I did what you do is I was in a 120-day study, so I get the hair test before and after, didn't show high lead. So isn't that interesting? So what that said to me was, I don't have active lead exposure. What the EDTA chelation did was drag the old lead out of my bones and showed it up, because it was actually the chelation was drawing, like we said earlier, drawing all that stuff out of my bones where it had been safely stored, I suppose.
Yeah, after you chelate like that, you should nutrient replenish for sure. That's the only problem with chelation, is that it doesn't just grab the bad metals, it grabs the good metals too. It just grabs everything and takes it out. And so you really, if you do chelation, you have to nutrient replenish afterwards. Now,
Right.
using zeolite, that's a great way to detox. Zeolite, bentonite, kaolinite, there's a bunch of different clays you can detox. There's a bunch of fancy ways of buying things and detox. The way that I handle lead, I have a unique, as far as I can tell, nobody else figured out how to detox lead as good as I can. They used, I remember all that lead, that Flint, Michigan stuff. They were on TV saying, "Oh, no cure for lead poisoning is known. We don't know how to get rid of lead." But I figured out a way to get lead. Colloidal gold is a direct detoxer of lead, and it actually will protect your body and your brain, especially, from lead as it's coming out. So the iMedDo detox system, which you're using now, along with that, is really good as part of the nutrient replenishment with the iodine, but also protecting your body from the lead as it's coming out with the gold, and protecting the brain with the gold, protecting the body with the silver. But I have a really great article on detox lead with gold. The reason gold works so well for lead detox is because the size of the gold atoms that are AU0, the neutral gold atoms, are the same size as a Pb2 plus atom, and they can bump the lead out of where it's stuck, not using charge, but like steric interactions, where this neutral thing's bumping it out, where the gold doesn't interfere with the +2 pathway, but the lead does. Because I told you the lead, it forms the Pb2 plus, it interferes with the calcium 2 plus, the magnesium 2 plus, and the zinc 2 plus. So as you're flushing lead out, you want to make sure you're getting enough magnesium and zinc in particular. And I would recommend doing it. And with the iodine, gives you that energy that allows your body to decide when it wants to grab the lead and flush it out. And then the gold protects your body. So that's how I handle lead, which is probably different than you've ever heard.
Well, it's so I've done now 9 months, and I just had my hair cut, so I just did my last hair tissue mineral analysis. And I'm what they call a simple herbalist. So I'm not somebody who puts like 15 different herbs in a thing and then makes a mixture. I'm like, okay, I can have this herb, and then I can have this herb, and I can have this herb. And I'm not really a big fan of mixing, because then I don't know what's working and what's not working. So with respect to this, is I'm going to actually take the next 120 days and just do the new system, right? I'm not going to do the masterpiece. And then I'm going to get another, hair and blood sample and so on and so on. Because yes, the masterpiece does have the zeolite, but the sea plasma is designed to, as you point out, basically provide some nourishment right away in terms of the minerals for that receptor you've just unplugged that heavy metal from. You want something to nourish that receptor. So it's been doing that. But so I really want that my next 120 days is going to be...
You're going very scientific about it. Hey, if you do testing before and after, you'll definitely see it. There's lots of studies where you can take iodine, and what they would do usually for heavy metal testing like that is you would test the urine, and then you would take the iodine, and then you would see more heavy metals coming out of the urine. So like you would test like a urine sample and then take iodine, and you'll see like higher concentrations of lead in your urine as the lead's coming out. It sort of would be like the traditional way to test that. But hair samples will work great too. But it will definitely work. Lead will come out. It probably was lead paint. Most people exposed to lead nowadays, it's coming from pipes, like lead pipes.
Oh, it could have been in that too. Who knows?
And a lot of people is when they change the pipes, because a lot of these old lead pipes had like a corrosion layer on them. But then they this one city, I think it was Jackson, Mississippi, switched the water supply going through their pipes to like the river water or something else, and then it knocked off that corrosion level. There was a layer of corrosion inside the lead pipes that was actually protecting from the lead, and then the lead was like directly exposed to water, and it was releasing a whole bunch of lead. And so they really screwed themselves, because a lot of these municipalities have lead pipes, and a lot of these places are still using. What's really bad is fluoride is the worst. I told you lead interferes with calcium. Fluoride also interferes with calcium and shuts down both sides of your thyroid. So places with both lead pipes and fluoride in the water are really bad.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. So what I'd like to do is encourage the audience to go check out iMedDo, iMedDo.Club, and get more information from Dr. Ben. I am definitely going to introduce you to Dr. Judy, because I think that you two would just be a match made in heaven. Make sure you carve out lots of time for that conversation. And then I'm going to, now that I've done this break, I'm actually thinking I might go get some blood work before I start in my next, so that way I don't really want to do the urine EDTA chelation challenge. It made me feel a little icky, because I'm basically pumping poison into my body, my bloodstream. So
I want to mention one really simple, free, and easy test that everyone should do. I call it the look in your mouth test.
Okay.
Everybody should open up their mouth and see if they have any mercury amalgam fillings in there.
Oh, I have a ton of them.
And if the answer is yes, I guarantee you that the majority of your health problems are from mercury heavy metal.
But okay? I don't have a lot of, neither my chelation nor my hair tissue samples are showing.
Yeah, but it may not be in your hair.
Or my urine.
It could be somewhere else, like all in your thyroid.
Could be.
So, so the thing is, that is the most important test that I'm seeing, because mainstream medicine does not talk about mercury, and so many people are struggling with mercury, and mercury is the most toxic of all the heavy metals.
Right.
And what you need to know about that is the antidote to mercury is silver. So that's why they made silver amalgams, where if they just put pure mercury in your mouth, your body would immediately reject it. So what they did, they were sneaky. They took the poison and the antidote and mixed it 50-50 with silver and mercury in the fillings. But over time, the mercury would leach out, and it's worse when it's hotter. It goes into the lungs. You breathe it in, it reabsorbs. Body has to get it out. But so many, and I mean so many people in this country, like with thyroid problems especially, but with other problems too, if you look in their mouth, they just have a mouthful of mercury. And their body, they've got mercury in their thyroid, they got mercury on their body. And so there's a very special, you can use my system for that, but the detox protocol requires use higher amounts of silver to suppress the mercury. And then you have to detox slowly and eventually get them out one at a time, detoxing between. It's a lot of, but the big thing to know is that a lot of people don't know is that silver is the antidote to mercury. More silver. Also, selenium helps protect from mercury. Have you ever studied like swordfish?
Yeah.
Swordfish have high amounts. Have you heard of, like, you eat too much swordfish, you can get too much mercury?
Yeah, I've heard that.
You ever heard that? But also swordfishes have really high levels of selenium. So it's like in the ocean, they've built up a way of using really high selenium to compensate for really high mercury. Oh, that's smart. And your thyroid uses a lot of selenium. And what it comes to is, for detox, I told you before, your body uses a lot of sulfur. There's 2 sulfur containing amino acids in proteins, cysteine and methionine. Okay. What I didn't learn until years later as a biochemist is that when they told me all the amino acids, it wasn't true. There's more amino acids than what they told me. There's these special selenium containing amino acids where the sulfur is replaced with the selenium. So instead of just cysteine, selenocysteine. Instead of just methionine, selenomethionine. And when your specialized tissues are really good at detoxing, if something gets stuck on a sulfur and it can't get it off of there, it'll use selenium to knock it off, or to bind it in a different way. Just sort of like how iodine is used in the body as a better alternative to oxygen. It's like selenium is used sort of like a better alternative to sulfur. And so for people struggling with mercury, silver and selenium are your best friend, but while you're detoxing it with iodine, and also gold to protect your brain is how I do it. Wow.
Well, yeah. And here, look, the reality is that there's not a, I have, my mouth is full of, and posts and crowns, and the reality is I'm never getting that taken out. It's just, I would have to have dental implants done to replace my teeth. Now,
how many mercury fillings do you have? Do you know? I can't see very well.
A bunch. Well, I got a bunch of metal.
To give you an idea, every single day the mercury leaks out, and it's about linear with the amount of fillings. Okay. And so you approximately linear need to increase your dose of silver. So like normally with my detox system, you use 1 drop of silver a day. Well, you might need 3 or 4 drops of silver a day.
Gotcha.
However, when you start using high dose of silver, especially when you get to like in the 7 to 10 drop range, you also need to do probiotics with it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm big into yogurt and ferments and all that stuff too. So.
And a big confusion of people is like, well, does silver kill all bacteria or just the bad bacteria? Because it seems like in reality, silver only kills the bad bacteria, but how does that work? Silver kills all the bacteria, but your body actually releases micronutrients to support the life of the good bacteria.
Right.
So when silver is dosed correctly, it actually only kills the bad bacteria. It doesn't kill the good. But you can also do a gut reset with it, do a high dose of it, and then you have to replenish with bacteria. So the issue with mercury is you have to elevate your silver to suppress the mercury. But then if you elevate it too much, then you have to stay on top of the probiotics to keep your gut healthy. So the gut health gets really serious with the mercury, because I told you the mercury comes out in the gut, comes out in the skin, and you're peeing it out. You don't want to flush it out so much that you hurt your kidneys. There's all kinds of really fun, easy detox ways to suck it out of the skin. With clay, you can put clay on your skin, let it dry, and then you scrape it off. And when it dries, it actually sucks it out. You can go sit, like in Florida where you are, you have those really wonderful silver springs. You can go sit in the silver spring and you can just feel the toxins going out of your body. Easy way people do. Have you heard of magnesium baths? You put like the Epsom salt in there in the tub and you can suck toxins out that way.
Yeah, my friend Cheryl Arbogast is a nurse who was severely injured. She had to take 103 vaccines as a nurse, and she had severe heavy metal poisoning. And so she did a lot. Her favorite is she loves chlorella. She still takes that. But Gene Decode actually, she uses his detox bath, which is alfalfa. Put it in a sachet because it's hard to chase it around the tub otherwise. Borax and baking soda, and there might be one other thing. But yeah, essentially, or maybe bentonite clay. But essentially pulling that stuff out through the skin. And so, yeah, it's
borax contains boron. Boron's really healthy for people. People need about 3 times. That's a really good herbal. And like, I think like a banana has like 0.5 milligram, but people need like 3 milligrams to get the health benefit. So most people need more boron, but too much boron can be toxic. So you have to be careful if you're taking it with borax, but boron is a really good one to get from vegetables. And I think a lot of the things that you're doing would be really great for protecting your gut and absorbing nutrients. So what do you do for your gut, gut detox?
Well, so
that stuff you were mentioning earlier.
I'm not really a detoxer. I'm a nourisher. So I basically nourish my gut. I nourish my liver. I nourish my. I try to nourish my body, mind, and spirit. Really, that's really.
Well, I want your paradigm to change, because when you learn about the iodine nutrient, it simultaneously nourishes you and detoxes.
I love that.
And filters all at the same time, and it's anti-cancer. It's insane. It's crazy how it works. But you can actually nourish and detox simultaneously.
Well, that's the thing.
Not just I thought it was just iodine, but actually silver and gold also. All 3 of these are nutrients. So I actually came at it from a detox perspective, but now I'm gotten to where I'm like you. I'm thinking I'm a nourishing perspective. I'm really nourishing. But I'm nourishing and detoxing at the same time now.
Well, and I think that, it's funny. It's like when the peanut butter meets the chocolate, you realize that, you're always meant for each other. I think that nourishing, I think we're both right. I think that the nourishing detoxes, that when the body's, nourished thoroughly, it will detox itself. And what you came from the detox perspective and then came around to the nourishment. So we're both really saying the same thing, but we're just coming from a little bit different perspectives.
And now thinking about the thyroid, I'm looking at it from an energy perspective. It takes energy to detox.
Right.
And if you don't have enough energy, you ain't going to detox, because your body's starving for energy and it's just trying to survive.
Right. And you don't want to leave that stuff hanging out in between in the body.
And it just keeps building up. If you're not in it. So I think of being in a constant state of detox.
Right. No, we're always it's just like it's not like we never exhale. We inhale, we exhale.
But the flip side is being in a constant state of nourishment.
Right.
But the problem
is
that
exhaling.
What are the correct nutrients for a human?
Right.
Have not been correctly known.
Right. Well,
and so I looked at it like, I was like, what is known? all
Right.
that we know, I have a really good article about breast milk and multivitamins. Okay. And I was
Oh,
trying to
breast milk
analyze,
is so
we
great.
know, we know that a baby human, all of the correct nutrients for a baby human are in breast milk.
Right.
So it always comes back to like the divine mother. When you're trying to figure out what are the correct nutrients for an adult human, you
Right.
always have to go back to the breast milk. And
Right.
one of the big things I found was in the fat part of the breast milk, there was iodine. And have you heard of
Right.
like pregnant women when they crave ice cream, high fat?
Yes.
They're actually an iodine craving.
That's interesting.
It's an iodine craving.
So I
So
should give them
milk, a lot of
seaweed
people have a
instead.
milk craving because it's an iodine craving, because that's the only way their body knows that they're getting iodine. But that's sort of how I came at iodine, was thinking about breast cancer and breast milk and iodine. And so I don't know, forgot where I was going with that, but
I don't know either, but it's been such an interesting discussion. I mean, it's really
oh,
fun.
where I was going with that was the problem with nutrition, as I see it, is that there isn't anybody who knows what the correct nutrients are for an adult human. There's a lot of people with a lot of good theories out there, but they all seem pretty wrong to me, and they seem so wrong to the point that I basically had to recreate all of the nutrition education for myself, where I literally had to redefine the entire vitamin nutrient alphabet to try to make it more correct, because it just seemed so incredibly wrong what people were doing.
Right. Well, and I do actually teach my introduction to herbal medicine and your wise healer within class. As it's 3 parts. It's 5.5 hours. We spend most of the first part talking about how to, first of all, how does digestion work? Because most people will have no idea how that works, and we talk about how it's more optimal to get whatever it is that you're getting from food rather than from a pill for lots of different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we talk about how to nourish. What are the foods, and honestly, some of the things, it's so crazy. Like, people think that it's really better if you just lightly steam your vegetables or eat them raw. And I'm like, folks, that is so wrong. I mean, that is like the exact opposite. I mean, of the truth, because they don't understand the cell wall. And but I'm having my smoothie, and I'm like, well, if you really like the taste of that, good for you. But do me a favor, just freeze your vegetables first before you stick them in your smoothie, because then you're going to be breaking the cell wall. Right? Freeze, dry, ferment, or cook. That's how you break the cell wall in a plant. And animals, meat and milk, don't have a cell wall. They're more similar. They're more similar to us, and so that's why milk is baby's first food, because they can't break down that tough cell wall. And so that's why. So I do teach people the proper way to prepare food, what food groups to have. I'm not an anti-grain person, although, nowadays people are like, oh, grains are so bad for you because of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, let's just go back to, because I always say, when in doubt, ask how your grandmother cooked, right? How did your grandmother cook? Believe me, she didn't just steam her green beans. She was cooking those bad boys for hours with garlic and onion and bacon and other fats. So yeah, it's super important. But the funny thing is, people don't. They have to be at a point when they're ready for that, because most
the big battle of the sexes that I see is always the women promoting the herbs and the men promoting the meat. It's just so funny to see that.
Well, I'm a big meat eater, and honestly, one of the big arguments that I have, and because I find in my space that we're overrun with vegans and vegetarians, and actually, one of my friends wrote a book called The Vegetarian Myth. Her name's Leah Keith. It almost killed her. And, Weston A. Price talks about the dangers of vegetarian and vegan diets. So, we have been programmed to believe that certain things are healthy. And by the way, in the 3rd session of my Introduction to Herbal Medicine class, we talk about some of these popular but very controversial things, like raw food, like soy, unfermented soy, like hormone replacement therapy. All of these kinds of things, they're popular, but are they safe? Are they good for you? But I do that last so that people won't just shut me off. And they get most of and so the first session is digestion, how to eat, where do you get your.
So it's like humans are rediscovering nutrition, and you're kind of on the forefront of that. So I really applaud you for that. But
Yeah.
I am too. But like it's like nobody knows the answer, and we have to just figure it out ourselves. And
Well, right.
some people are ahead of others, and we're trying to teach other people, but there's just so much propaganda out there. It makes it really hard.
Well, and that's part of what I also teach. Let me see if I can share find my thing, because that's a great point. There's so much crap information out there that people really don't have a sense of how to choose. And so one of the things that I teach, oops, sorry, stop share. Shared the wrong thing. Sorry, folks, I'm a terrible producer. Oh, here it is. Okay. So this, one of the things that I really try to teach people is how's an approach. This is an approach, and it starts with doing no harm. If you have
I consider you a doctor because that's actually the Hippocratic Oath right there.
Yes, first do no harm.
Right?
Yes.
The first thing we are doing no harm, that's basically the Hippocratic Oath, which is a subset of the golden rule, the golden law. So that is sort of like to be a doctor, that's like step one of being a doctor.
Right, exactly. And so,
which I think is amazing. So go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. So basically, we call it the 6 steps of healing, or the 7 medicines. And so the very first thing that you do is actually step 0, because it's doing nothing at all. And that's really serenity medicine, and that's where you get quiet and you're still, and you really start to, that's his meditation or prayer or whatever it is. So I
have trouble with saying quiet, right?
Yes.
I have trouble with step 0.
Oh my gosh, people, and it doesn't have to be hours, folks. It can be a moment. And I don't care if you have a terminal stage 4 diagnosis. You can take a few minutes and bathe in serenity medicine to just be still, because this is what, and this is part of why I teach this, is because I've worked with people that have, terminal stage 4, you're going to be dead next month kind of thing. Oh my God, the doctor says I have to do this and this and this. And like, okay, let's just take a breath. Okay, we can breathe for a minute and really connect, right? To get centered. And then the next step is to collect information, and that's really telling a story. And a diagnosis is a story. You don't need one to heal, but what story is the dis-ease presenting to you, or what needs to be heard by you? Because we talk in scientific terms about, oh, well, this physical problem is, and there's a physical solution. But guess what, folks? I've had cases where you could throw everything at it that should work physically and it doesn't resolve. Why? Because there's a metaphysical thing going on, or a lesson that we have to, that this is why our attention has been brought to this particular thing. So then,
and I want to mention there, mainstream medicine focuses a lot on diagnosis, but there's a forgotten word that the Greeks had called prognosis.
Right, exactly.
So prognosis, that's like the fortune telling part of telling the story of like, you're going to live X amount of time. It's just like a fortune teller, like, oh, you've only got 6 months to live or something. They're good at diagnosis, but don't let them prognose you ever.
Right. I love that. No, that's phenomenal.
Because they're terrible at it. They don't believe in it, and they do it, and they're like, you're not a spiritual person. I can prognose myself, or talk to my local wise woman and get a much better prognosis than you can give me.
Exactly. And because you know what, at the end of the day, because the other thing is, it's a very arrogant thing, right? Because I'm not a healer of anyone but myself. And what I try to encourage people is to connect with their own wise healer within, because you're the only one that's going to be able to heal you. And how you do it might be very different from how I do it, or how Ben does it. And, we all know about, the fact that everything seems to work for some of the people some of the time, right? So how do you explain that? Well, it's the next one, which is engaging the energy, or mind medicine, also known as the placebo effect. So it is your belief about whatever it is that will really determine what works or what doesn't work, right? So,
and for this, now that you know about the thyroid, I also want you to think about engaging the energy is learning about how the thyroid works with iodine, And the mind medicine is about how the thyroid listens to the mind about the energy.
I love that.
So in there, besides, a lot of people are just in the placebo mindset, but also realize there's actually the thyroid energy mindset as well.
Well, absolutely. And I
Gauging the
love
energy.
the imagery, it's the butterfly and the shield. I mean, I think that's going to give me a lot of food for meditation and further consideration. And then the very next step is to nourish and tonify, which I call lifestyle medicine. And these first four medicines are always 100% safe, and they always build health. Now, sometimes you're not going to get the results that you're looking for in the time that you have. My friend who had a terminal stage 4 cancer diagnosis in 2009 didn't have a lot of time to see if nourishing and tonifying would work. So she had to, go further, right? And you may have to do things like alternative medicine where it's a stimulate and sedate. And this is where most herbalists live, is these, stimulating and sedating herbs, the ones that are a little dangerous, a little poisonous. They heat you up, that sort of thing. In alternative medicine, sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need a good purge or cleanse or detox, right? That's what this really specializes in. And then sometimes that still doesn't get the job done, so you have to go further. But anytime you go into step 4, 5, and 6, there's always risk. So you're eroding your health in the hopes of restoring it, because it's not really helpful. So my friend, for example, who did the 30 odd radiation treatments right in the chest, pow. Well, there are things, and I teach this in my Dancing with Cancer class, that you can do to mitigate that if that's what you're choosing. I'm not saying you have to choose chemo and radiation; it's your choice. But this is sort of a paradigm of what process to go through to figure out what you want to do, right? Do I want to do chemo? Do I want to do radiation? Do I want to do a cleanse? Do I want to do a detox? Do I want to do a what? Do I want to use this gadget or this thing? This is just a simple way to remind yourself that you are created perfect, and the divine, your source energy, having a physical experience. And so how to connect with your source to get the wisdom that you need to carry on and be healthy. And so I knew we were going to resonate when I just had that little time to talk with you at the fair. And I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more work with you, Ben. Just really appreciate you. So and just to remind the audience, it's iMedDo.Club is the website.
Yeah.
And
real quickly, I realized I forgot to talk about, you were talking about all the different modalities and stuff available for people. Like for thyroid problems, most of the problems that people get can be classified as hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. Usually hypothyroidism is from low energy, low iodine. High TSH because your brain's trying to get more energy. It's out of energy because it doesn't have enough iodine. So I can really help people with hypothyroidism, or if they need detox. And then there's the fancy type of hypothyroidism is called Hashimoto's. A lot of times with Hashimoto's, if it's a toxin thing, like a lot with mercury, I can help. Sometimes it's genetic or autoimmune and you can't, but a lot of times they tell you there's no cure, but really it's an underlying toxin thing like mercury that you can actually detox and you can cure. Then the other type is called hyperthyroidism. Taking iodine doesn't help you so much with that, but looking at the other side of the thyroid function with the calcium, before you decide to cut your thyroid out or fry it out with radiation, see if you can heal it just doing the basic nourishing things. Like maybe it needs more magnesium. Maybe my vitamin D isn't working. Maybe I need more cholesterol to make my vitamin D work. Maybe I need more vitamin C to make my vitamin D work. Maybe I need more sunlight to get my vitamin D working. So there's things it's high parathyroid hormone, but I found out they don't even test for parathyroid hormone. So the most important way to test that side, they don't even look at. So people, before you have to choose that modality to remove your thyroid, and that's what they do with hyperthyroidism. If your thyroid works too much, eventually they promote getting it out, and they will turn you from hyper to hypo, usually surgically removal of the thyroid or radioablation or something terrible that you don't want to. You want to really try to fix your thyroid with nutrition before you have to go to those drastic things. But then once you do those drastic things, then you have to take your iodine through synthetic thyroid hormone, which is the pre-made T4, T3 that has, you are taking iodine, but through a drug form.
Right.
or you've got to get NDT, natural desiccated thyroid, like from animal,
Right.
or you can supplement iodine, and there's different forms, and I'm promoting nascent iodine as the correct one to do. So there's a whole bunch of options, but mainstream medicine has a very simple business plan, which is to kill your thyroid and get you hooked on um, levothyroxine by taking the drug form of iodine your whole life,
That's
no
simple.
matter what your problem is.
Right.
And so for people who want to try to save their thyroid before having to pick those more drastic options of the break and enter and just remove your thyroid, those are the people I really want to help.
Oh, that's so needed today. And yeah, you are right. It's mainly women who really struggle with this. In fact, my old chiropractor when I lived on Long Island, she'd had her thyroid removed, and you know was constantly telling me that cheese was fat people's candy, and I was like, no, candy is fat people's candy, but okay. You know, I was like, okay, but yeah, so fascinating. So folks, please do go check out, and because I'm going to be doing this over the next few days, is checking out the writings that DrBenGo has for us about iodine and gold and silver, and like I said, I'm going to be starting on the products now that I have a clean break. And what I figured was I would do 120 days, and then I would do another hair test and just kind of see, hey, well, you know, now how's it going? Because honestly, my metals were quite low. Other than because my hair test didn't really show I had a whole lot of problems. I mean, in fact, my aluminum was quite low, which they were surprised, right, because of the geoengineering and whatnot. Lead, arsenic, and cadmium were my three tough ones. And what I just learned, and this is super important also for the audience, what I learned was, you know, people are like talking about salts and how important salt is, and it is because it's, you know, mineral. But all of these fancy salts now, like I was using Celtic sea salt. Well, Mama Vation just did a testing of like 100 different salt brands, and guess what was very high in lead, arsenic, and cadmium? Celtic gray sea salt. So I've stopped using that. But you know, we get stuff from places where we wouldn't have expected it, right? I was like, oh well, how could that? Oh, okay, well that could be a problem. So
I made a really important discovery with salt I want to share real quick, and that is most of the food, they're overdoing people on sodium salt.
yes,
But in your body, naturally, the salt balance has like 8 or 10 times higher potassium than sodium. So it, like in a banana, or in coconut juice, it has higher potassium than sodium. So in your body, naturally, you have a higher potassium to sodium level. You need them both. But in the modern diet, everybody's getting all sodium and no potassium. So I actually make my own custom salt blend where I'll do like 1 part sodium chloride to like 7 or 8 parts potassium chloride.
interesting. Well,
And
you know, I've got kind of high potassium, so I don't know what that exactly means. It's not good for the kidneys, but I stopped
yeah,
eating
it could
bananas.
be low kidney function, but the kidney function could be from mercury. Also, it could just be a problem with vitamin D sometimes. I found out a big discovery was that there's actually a secondary activation of, well, actually tertiary activation of vitamin D that occurs in the kidney. Vitamin D is activated in the skin, then in the liver, then ultimately in the kidney. And if there's fluoride in the kidney, it blocks the vitamin D. And so the kidneys reabsorb salts, not just calcium and magnesium, but also sodium and potassium and stuff. But a lot of times the salt balance is off for people because their iodine is low.
Right.
And because their iodine is low, their thyroid is off. And because their thyroid is off, the calcium side of the thyroid is overactivated trying to compensate.
Right.
And the calcium side of the thyroid that uses magnesium, it all ties into the other salt balances of regulating blood pressure. So a lot of times the blood pressure and the salts are screwed up because the calcium side of the thyroid is screwed up because the iodine side of the thyroid is screwed up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes these salt problems just go away when you just start taking the iodine.
Right. Well,
I know it sounds weird, but that's my finding. But that's so complicated that most people would have no idea to try that.
Well, our you know, we are complex beings. We have a lot of different systems and a lot of different factors, and so it can become. But the important thing is, you know, I think it's important that people not be overwhelmed, right? Because the simple truth is, we are created divinely. We're created in perfect and whole and holy. And what Dr. Ben here is saying is that once we understand how amazing our body systems really are, we can actually take measures to make sure that they're working optimally, and that we're getting and to make sure that we're getting the proper nourishment so that we can, carry on. So I think that, there's a lot of complicated science behind these things, and our left brains really love that, logical, linear, scientific method. And our right brains, our holographic side of our brains, our intuitive side of our brains, already know it and are remembering it, right? So a lot of this it's not like new information. It's just we're remembering, right? These are ancestral truths. And yes, they didn't have the way to measure, but they knew it in a way that we have forgotten. So I encourage people to remember your perfection and your wholeness and your holiness. And when in doubt, ask your grandmother. It's usually my advice.
And also, you'll notice and be excited that when you start taking iodine, it opens up your third eye, and your powers of intuition and psychic powers and all that are greatly amplified for women.
Woohoo!
Who have a much higher capacity for that than men because of the higher iodine storage capacity of their body.
Well, it's really interesting, and I could go on with you for hours, but there was I had a guest on my show a year or so ago, and we were talking about right and left hemispheres, and how the alphabet changed how the brain worked, because suddenly we were forced into a primary left brain linear dualistic way of thinking, and oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
I know a lot about the alphabet. The alphabet can be used as a weapon or for healing,
Right.
One way or the left. And there's a lot of history where the alphabet was read left to right, then right to left. We read it left to right. But yeah, the way
I know what I was going to. So
alphabet is used is not good.
Yeah. So anyway, so we were talking about the left and right lobes, and then the men's and women's brains look the same, and they're blah 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 blah, and yet So the interesting thing that I did not know was that yes, the brains look the same. However, and apparently, and I looked around and verified this to the extent I can, the way the neuron pathways fire is different between men and women. So with men's brains, if the neuron starts firing in the right lobe, it will sort of stay in the right lobe. And if it starts in the left lobe, it'll stay in the left lobe. But it will never cross or cross-pollinate. Whereas,
so I learned in neuroscience basically women have a larger corpus callosum, which is that part that connects the two hemispheres.
Yes.
So it's like men are more left or right, but women are more like left and right connected together, kind of.
Yes, we have an easier time drawing on both sides of the brain. So I just found that so fascinating.
It really is. That's why men don't understand women a lot of times.
Yeah, and women don't understand men. It's like, gosh, guys, come on. but I mean, that's what makes us beautifully contrasting and fitting together nicely. So, all right, folks. Well, listen, we've been going for almost 90 minutes here, so I want to give Dr. Ben a break and say thank you so much, Dr. Ben. Again, iMedDo.Club. IMEDDO.
iMedDo. It's like I'm a medical doer. iMedDo.
iMedDo.
I'm a medical doer.
Perfect. And check out more of his work. So thank you so much, Dr. Ben. I'll be back next week with a brand new guest. And after I finish my 120 days, we're going to bring Dr. Ben on. In the meantime, I'm going to share a lot of information with him, and maybe he can help make sense of my own particular situation. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate you very much. Thanks, Dr. Ben. Till next time.
Thank you, Casey. Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye for now.